Every payment that you had made up until that point that the total balance was caught up is delinquent. So now the clock stops. That's the problem.
So today I am here with my good friend Greg Aftayev of Homestead Financial, and I decided to pick his brain a bit because I flat out don't know this answer. Listening to all these talk radio shows and listening to the media and reading all this crap on the internet about forbearance, and people say forbearance isn't forgiveness, but then what is it? And just as a service to my clients, to everybody out there who's a homeowner and has these same questions, I'm in the industry and I can't make sense of this. So I called Greg and said, can you do me a favor, sit down with me for a couple minutes and get this through my thick skull. What is this, and is it even really a wise idea for somebody to do?
I mean, there's a bend in the reality of this. You know, people are asking themselves, what do I lose if I don't do a forbearance? Or what do I lose if I do? Our job now as a lender is to dictate this information, as it's the worst possible thing you could be doing as far as your credit. The education isn't there. You know, in layman's terms, a forbearance is I set up an agreement with the bank that I'm making my mortgage payments to for a set period of time for some type of financial hardship. I lost my job, I can't work, whatever the particular reason is. What they're not telling you is the setup and the downfall. We kid around and we say we're all in quarantine. Your credit becomes in quarantine by filing a forbearance agreement. The first thing that happens is that your creditors are let know that there's a forbearance that exists. This forbearance says, I can't pay my payments on time. So what's going to happen? What other credit lines do I have that they're going to kill those lifelines for? So I've got a credit card for $10,000 balance, a $10,000 limit, and I have a $2,000 balance. Well, there's $8,000 that I could maybe live on. You're going to see your balances your limits start to drop, or they might get canceled altogether. It's not uncommon. The forbearance agreement doesn't let anybody else know except that you just can't make your payment.
So in a nutshell, what you're saying is that I because you know it's all over the news, these people are saying I should do this. I call my lender, or I call my mortgage company and say, hey, listen, I'm having a little bit of issue here. Maybe I'm not even having an issue. Maybe I'm still making pretty well the same kind of money and I can make my loan payment, but I'm led to believe that I just don't have to for 2 or 3 months.
It's pretty exciting now. People that think about stimulus checks,
yeah,
not having to pay this, or if I buy a car, it's 6 months without a payment. They think it's great. It's been nothing but positive. They don't break down the altercations as to what's going to happen. That's where the education has been led astray, or the lack of education altogether.
And so what you're saying is that, you know, I call my mortgage guy and I say, hey, listen, I can't make my $2,700 a month payment. Or I can, but I'm going to say, hey, I hear that I can take and just wipe this off the map. And he's going to say,
no problem.
Sure, yeah, it's not a big deal. But what he's not going to tell me is that 3 months down the road, or 4 months down the road, they are going to say, hey, listen, yep, you don't have to make this. But it's hurting me with all my other stuff that I've worked so hard to build.
Well, 10 years ago, a forbearance was I 4 months behind in my house. I'm a seasonal employee. I'm not working right now. And then when I was supposed to work, it didn't work out. Maybe it was bad weather or whatever. The point is, I owe $1,000 a month and I can't make it, and I'm 4 months down. I need help. Now, a bank, if they're smart, they're going to determine what your equity position is in the house. If it's nothing to speak of, if it's in and around that 80%, well, they take 20% off the top just to sell the property. That's why people buy foreclosed properties. Mm-hmm. They're going to rather work with you. So they'll say, okay, Brian, you owe $4,000. So for the next 2 years, you're going to add $200 to your mortgage payment until it's caught up.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm back on my feet and everything is great. You go to have your credit run and you've been in a forbearance agreement, every payment that you had made up until that point that the total balance was caught up is delinquent. So now the clock starts. That's the problem. That's the big problem.
Oh my.
Yes.
Well, that's a bit of a problem.
Kind of
isn't it?
sucks a little bit,
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
So, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to do this. So my job, my whole job, it's not selling houses. That's not what I do. It's protecting my clients. And it's referring them to the right people, whether it be the right inspection company to use, the right appraisal people to use, that kind of thing. That's why I'm here, to get this education out to my clients, because you guys are who are important. I don't have a dog in the hunt when it comes to whoever you use for your mortgage. That doesn't affect me, but affects me when their credit is trashed. Because 5 years down the road, 3 years down the road, whatever time it is, and they come to me and say, hey, listen, yeah, it's time for me to sell my house. We're having another baby. We want to move into something bigger. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, yeah, but you had this. And now you can't do anything because this is on your record.
And I can conspiracy theory this too. Lenders have been trading money for the last 2 years, where the average consumer has been refinancing on the average no more than 3 years. Whether I'm buying, I'm selling, I'm putting a room addition on, or I'm paying off some credit card debt, you name it. Now, rates have gotten so good and they've taken plummeted drops. So Bryan Rankins refinanced, paid off a lot of debt, and then 7 months later does it again because it's an even better payment. That's not what a bank's idea was when they loaned you out this money. By being in a forbearance agreement, you're locked down now. I got you for 3 years or 4 years until you finally caught back up. Then that investment has been made. So I think that's, in my opinion, and again, this is just the experience I've had doing this as long as I have, is that is not a prepayment penalty. We don't have those anymore, but you can't go anywhere if your credit doesn't allow you to. But you're back on your feet and making your payments. You've solidified that bank relationship. It's just my theory. I could be wrong.
I was going to say, for me, everything is, there isn't a lot of black and white sometimes, especially whenever we're listening to the media and we're reading what we read on the internet. It's like, what is good for me? What is bad for me? For me, it's like, what is great for my clients? What is terrible for my clients? And a forbearance, if you can make your mortgage payment, make your mortgage payment. You can make your loan payments of any sort, make them. Maybe you don't pay off your credit card that month. Maybe you let it go a few months and deal with the interest. If you're in that kind of position, do me a favor. Call somebody that knows. Greg will answer your questions. I guarantee you. Somebody eventually will put his phone number up there and call him, because these are questions that, if I got them, I guarantee you 90% of my people out there have these questions too, and they just want to hear it straight. They don't want to hear all the other, sugar-coated crap that's out there. They want to know, is this bad for me? Because I listened to one talk radio guy, and that financial guy was like, oh no, this is great. Oh my goodness, yeah, it's gonna relieve the stress off of you. You're not gonna have any problems. Life is great. And then 30 minutes later, there's another guy going on. It's like, what are you, stupid? Don't you even think about doing this because what is going to happen to you?
Well, there's been situations where we've all made a mistake, forgot to make a car payment, or I just had a financial problem. But announcing it to the credit world that you're in, that I no longer can make payments, you're better off not making that payment and then trying to catch it up. From a lending guideline, we care about what your life was for the last 12 months. So here comes June and Bryan can't make this payment. Well, he caught it up in July. But for the next 11 months, until that June payment falls off, maybe you can't do any lending, but your credit cards are intact. We didn't drop your limits. You didn't announce to the world. You just fell on some hard times. It is what it is, but don't make it bigger than what it's financially, it's unfortunate, right?
Yeah.
But by announcing to the lending world that you're in that you no longer can make your payments is the slow death. That's that credit quarantine, because long after we're out of this, you're handcuffed. Now
Yeah.
what if you have $40,000, $50,000 in equity that you really could use to get ahead? You're gonna find out now, and you'll see it in the weeks to come too, the only kind of lending you'll really see is purchase money and rate and term money. Fine-tuning the mortgage that you have, a 30-year to a 20, or what we're seeing now is the 15-year back to the 30. Skipping a few payments and then just allowing that personal economy of yours to stay strong and heal. You're not going to see the cash outs. The lifelines are going away. Even if you have excellent credit, you're going to see your credit card limits drop because they're trying to reduce that liability.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, see, and I guess that's the big thing I wanted to bring with you guys, or bring to you guys today, is that, I don't have the answers. I have a lot of questions, don't have the answers. I'm sure you guys are as confused as I was too. Call the people that know. Call the experts. Give Greg a call. He'll be happy to run through your situation and be able to explain, because maybe everybody doesn't fall in that same mold. But I'm going to guarantee you that 95% of you probably fall into the mold where, yep, I can still make my mortgage payment. I can still make my credit card payments. While I would love free money, I don't want free money that's going to hurt me after I've spent all these years to build what I have. I don't want that negative part on me. I just want to make my payments and be okay. So I appreciate you taking the time to watch the video today. Greg, do you have anything else to add?
Since we haven't had haircuts for a while, we look like this.
Yeah.
We look like an old boy band back on tour.
Yeah.
We actually have matching haircuts now.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Want to go back in my basement?
Well, the quarantine will be over soon, we hope, and life will be back to some semblance of order. We'll be able to actually be on like bar stools right next to each other instead of down
That's
the thing.
never happened.
I know. Never once. So thanks for listening, guys, and if you have questions, feel free. Shoot us a call, give us a text, send us an email, or just drive by his house, stand outside, write your notes on a big card. He's got a whiteboard. He'll stand out there and answer them.